The cars are honking, the neighbour's dog is staging some kind of protest for mammals, and the rain has reached a level normally reserved for government reports on economic growth. In short, it's a perfectly normal afternoon, ideal for reviewing a few recent chess games. And yes, the rain is now falling with such mathematical precision and speed that even the Fibonacci numbers would struggle to keep up. But that's okay. Indoors, with a cup of coffee that tastes slightly of optimism and a little of chalk, we can calmly analyse our past games, learn from them, and continue playing. And that's how every work of genius begins.
So, that's exactly the game I meant. So, we were...
And here we see the king's pawn, modest, confident, perhaps slightly gluten intolerant, stepping boldly into the centre. A marvellous move discovered, as we all know, in 1473 by a monk who was aiming for silence but accidentally invented noise. Or shortly after the discovery of bread. It's what we call the Italian opening, though it's worth clarifying that no Italians were harmed or indeed consulted in its creation. From a psychological perspective, moving the pawn early reveals an adventurous temperament, the sort of person who reads the instructions after assembling the trebuchet. The idea is to control the centre, though, tragically, so few ever manage to. Many players lose the centre entirely and, in despair, begin fortifying the left rim, hoping no one notices they now live in exile. Now observe our valiant knight, a once hopeful blob of potential, is being politely escorted backwards by a series of unfriendly gestures from the opponent. A kind of passive-aggressive choreography. The opponent now takes control of the board, the tempo, and possibly the commentary booth. It is, to put it mildly, a crisis of metaphorical proportion. The kind philosophers write lengthy essays about before realizing they've been watching the replay of the same move for 4 centuries straight. And yet, there's a certain beauty in it all. The calm, inevitable collapse of reason disguised as strategy. A reminder that in chess, as in life, victory often goes not to the strongest or the wisest, but to the one who remembered to bring a thermos of tea.
After several minutes, finally decided to activate my knight here, but it would be here, but I should have played here, so my knight would be more active. I see that now. Anyway, he brings his rook in the game. And I give up everything, as you see in this thing. And we exchange, takes, take, and here he starts with his first checkmate threat, against which I fight, but as you see, pretty poorly. Why? But here, as you see, pretty poorly. And here I really thought it's finished. I have no chance anymore. But as you will see, we see. Okay, that was my losing move after several losing moves. And after all, I have lost. That was the first game of the evening, and so I learned all pieces need to work together. Because here they clearly did not, and so I lost. Anyway, next game, next round. Let's see. Anyway, here I start with the queen pawns opening, and as you see,
A new game once again, the London system. Some say it's lazy to always start with the same opening. But if you take a look at history, there's nothing lazy about it. It's only human.
so here, Londoner system. He develops and attacks my pawn, and to further develop and the bishop to the d3 square. See? And here he let his bishop hanging. And I saw that because here, after the last lost, I was devastated. So I thought, now I see everything. And as you see, I did. And I took every opportunity. He goes further and yeah. Usually I would here as a review, I think the best move here would be bishop to here, square e2. But I decided to pin his knight. Also a good move. I think castling kingside is here not the best option he had. Because theoretically I could simply sacrifice my bishop. He takes, I go here.
Did you seize the moment? Did you strike while the iron was hot and like the video? In any case, the following shows what our From Zero to Hero would actually like to do in this situation. Now, in retrospect.
Because here you see his pawns are in his way, and for a queen development, it's nothing possible because of his pawns and his own other pieces. And a strong response would probably be here a check, but that would mean play here. And here, and then he could maybe at least try here for an attack, but it would be checkmate anyway. But as you see, this did not happened because what I played is this. I played that. That because I thought I could make an attack and rid of that. I could checkmate like that. But I had the opportunity. And that's exactly why reviews can hurt when you see these beautiful moves, but they are poof, vanished. And I'm sure I take his knight, but after that I let my pawn hang. I had the winning opportunity with one sacrifice, just of bishop.
Painful, incomprehensible, unbelievable. The perfect description of this review, or possibly of quantum mechanics itself, depending on whether you've had lunch. But alas, the arrow of time points forward. Unless, of course, you happen to be a photon, gliding smugly through the universe at light speed, experiencing no time at all, and presumably wondering why the rest of us insist on aging between moves. Now, if you were traveling as a frequency toward the ever-receding cone of light, which sounds romantic but mostly causes equations to panic, you might find yourself in a region with 3 dimensions of time, depending on which physicist you've offended. There, yesterday is next Tuesday, and the rook is simultaneously alive, dead, and inexplicably diagonal. But let's return, reluctantly, to the chessboard. That peculiar laboratory of human delusion, where the cerebellum issues urgent tactical memos, and the primary visual cortex insists that the queen has vanished again. Looking back on the game can be painful, but it's how we evolve, through deep reflection, regret, and the occasional scream into a cushion. Sadly, your pieces have yet to embrace cooperation. They wander aimlessly, like subatomic particles after a particularly messy Big Bang, bumping into one another and declaring victory whenever they land on a light square. Your opponent, meanwhile, observes this chaos with quiet delight, collecting your pieces. How the tax office and the bank chase after every pound they can get. And so the lesson remains. In chess, as in the universe, structure emerges briefly out of entropy, performs something vaguely resembling purpose, and is then cheerfully annihilated by someone who's read 2 more pages of the manual.
Well, after such a painful thing, let's move on to the next game that I hopefully win. Let's see. Here I start with a strange looking king pawns opening. And he grabs directly the space and I... What's that? I really don't know what I played here. Yeah, I did. and I immediately destroy the pawn structure. It's gone.
Holy
No,
smoke.
what the...
You
Where were we? Yeah. Here we were. And where my king is in one of the strangest ways, just open, free to take. Wait. What's that? What? You know what? That won't work. Just a review. I see so many mistakes. We play now a rapid one, just to end this. I mean, that was too painful. And viewers, what's that? Nothing more. Dear viewers, I am really wondering, when you review your chess games, your plans, or however you would like to call this, your experience with that, if you have any questions about your moves, or do you think every move you make was perfect? Let me know in the comments. Let's go on.
He's starting with the London system. Of course he is. The only opening with the arrogance to name itself after a city that can't decide whether it's raining or simply self-moisturizing. All right then. Pawn to d4, bishop to f4, e3. Polite, civilized, vaguely apologetic moves. The chess equivalent of saying after you and then sprinting through the door while your opponent blinks in British confusion. You comment a little too enthusiastically, and suddenly the player's auditioning to replace you, narrating their own moves in real time, as if possessed by a BBC presenter who's also an existential physicist. But don't worry, dear viewers, I'm not going anywhere. Someone must maintain the illusion of stagnation in the storm, and that someone is me, armed with a tepid cup of reason. The board develops beautifully. So far, his pieces cooperate more effectively than international climate treaties, which is both impressive and faintly alarming. There's a pin on b5, stable and serious, the kind of position that makes mathematicians whisper, finally, something deterministic. But beware, the clock ticks mercilessly. 10 minutes, time itself, quantized into anxiety. Each second slides off like an electron escaping an energy level, emitting photons of pure confusion. This isn't just chess, it's thermodynamics with snacks. A neck-and-neck race through space-time where only one player will remain locally observable. And look at him, arranging pieces as if rehearsing for a BBC documentary titled Man Attempts Strategy, while observing existence on the moon, eating cauliflower. His moves are smooth, but there's always that London system uncertainty. It works perfectly, provided you never, ever do anything. much like Schrodinger's cat attempting to file a tax return. Yet this is precisely why we adore chess, a microcosm of improbable harmony. Here pawns dream of emancipation through perfectly symmetrical revolution. Bishops debate the metaphysical properties of diagonals, while rooks unionize for shorter commuting distances. Even the knights, those peculiar L-shaped anarchists, occasionally question their own trajectories out loud in Middle English. Meanwhile, outside this board-sized universe, politicians sprint toward microphones to claim credit for the bishop's last move, unaware that causality may, in fact, be an optional extra. Perhaps it's all a simulation, coded by an intern with a fondness for caffeine and light irony. So buckle up, dear viewers. 10 minutes of accelerated plan and ambiguities lie ahead. A thunderstorm of ideas where reason collapses faster than a souffle in a vacuum chamber. Who shall triumph? The player, the clock, or the dove that advocates for cows to have the right to vote? Only the laws of physics, and maybe the arbiting toaster, will decide.
The newest chess gender. But that's nothing right now, because right now it's not optimal for me. Let's see, can he take some? No. I'm still absolutely safe. So my plan's still good to go. With the Mr. and Mrs. Chesses. Okay, I see his threat. Now I have enough for this threat. So I want to get rid of him. Or her. It's a queen. It's her. Now I just have to get rid of him, and then like this, and then
It's a long, difficult game, so here's the quick version or summary of the long game. Thank you for watching and listening. Before we finish, there's one more game he played after learning. And it's such a magnificent game that it simply had to be included in this video. Watch and be amazed. It's an absolute rarity. What happens in this game? What's possible so early on? And those moves, the blunders by the opponent, it's almost beyond description. It's best if you see it for yourself. Have fun and see you next Friday, because I'm off work now. Bye. Thanks you, yes, goodbye, and see you next Friday.